Can you tell us a little bit about how traveling as a pair has affected your approach to finding assignments?
Yeah, so we knew that we were going to travel as a pair from the get-go, and we knew that it would be a little harder to find jobs. So we always strategically planned from the get-go on around trying to find two jobs together. So back when we first started in 2015, we realized that that was going to be a challenge. So we started strategically looking at certain states that tended to have more jobs. And back then we were actually using AMN Med Traveler's website as like a good guide because they had such a large like up-to-date database of jobs. So we would research in advance actually on Med Traveler's website to try to figure out like which states should we try to get licensed in so that we would have a good chance of finding two jobs there, which I think is different than a lot of people's approach of just like, oh, I want to go to Hawaii, so I'll just get licensed in Hawaii. We would only get licensed in states where we thought we'd have a good opportunity of finding two jobs, and that got us off on the right foot to be able to find two jobs there.
I'm very analytical and research oriented. So our primary goal, we went into it kind of like as prepared as possible. There weren't as many resources back then, but our primary goal was to find two jobs in one location, obviously, and then to take outpatient jobs. And for everything else, we were extremely flexible. So what state, what part of the state, even pay. I mean, obviously you want to get paid well, but that was always a secondary concern compared to finding two jobs and getting outpatient.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, finding two jobs is more important because you're going to make a lot more money than, if you're just at one job, right? Like generally when you guys are out traveling. So that's awesome. And have you guys always been with Med Travelers then?
We've taken the majority of our assignments over the years with them. We do always advocate for other travel therapists and for ourselves to try to keep your options open and do look at jobs with other companies. But we've taken, ever since like our very first contracts back in 2015, a lot of jobs with Med Travelers. And then over the years, we've taken one here or there with other companies if we found a different option.
Yeah, probably about 75% of them were through Med Travelers.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have been traveling for a long time. So, generally your guys' plan has been, you do research, you find out what states are going to make sense. And then do you guys get the licensure beforehand before you start applying to states? Is that
that's a big thing. We tell new travelers, like we've seen a lot of issues over the years with like people we've helped and just people that we've, other travelers we've run into on assignment that they will wait to get the state license and then there's an issue with it and it delays their start date. And it's not only bad for them, but it's bad for the facility and the patients. And it just makes us, it makes travel way more difficult than it needs to be. So yeah, we are very big on getting the license up front to try to minimize any interruptions.
Yeah, I think that's huge too. Because it makes it easier sometimes when you can apply to positions before getting the state license because it feels like you have more options. But once you get the job and then you're tight on the timeline, it makes it a lot less fun, the waiting period, right?
Yeah.
Have you guys ever ran into that before? Like where you did take a job before you had a license and that became a problem for you? Or have you always had the license before and it hasn't been an issue?
There's pros and cons to doing it that way. We always don't do it that way, just to be safe. But yeah, I mean, the downside of that is we've gotten 2 state licenses now that we never used. We just like looked, we saw they had a lot of outpatient jobs. We planned to go there, went ahead and got licensed, and then no jobs ever worked out. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a hassle and you have some upfront costs doing it that way. But you know that if a job pops up, there's not going to be any, waiting time. And, a lot of jobs, they won't even interview you if you don't have the license. And for the two of us, that's the most important thing is to have the most options.